Hey, this is Jurassic Jen.
This is Tom Jurassic.
And you're listening to the Salty Nerd Podcast.
Happy Jurassic June.
Happy Jurassic June.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd, and I am joined by my panel of nerds, starting with Matthew Kadish, author extraordinaire. What's up, man?
Hello.
Jude, the ambassador of estrogen herself. Welcome.
Thank you. I brought my ovaries and everything.
Nice.
When do you not bring them ovaries?
Well, I was going to leave them, but then I thought, you know what, just bring
kind of
them.
attached,
Did you
right?
ever hear that song, The Detachable Penis?
Yes.
That's a fantastic song. I'm also joined by Matt Vader, the barbarian himself. What's up, man?
I bought Funkos this week.
I know. That's all you've been talking about.
Funk holes. So edit that shit. Okay, buddy? All right.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thanks so
he's
much.
full of salt today.
Full of it. It's full of something. Today's episode, we're going to be celebrating not having to talk about Star Wars anymore.
Oh, thank God.
Thank God.
That
May
was
is
a
over.
lot of
Instead,
Star
we're having to
Wars.
talk about Jurassic Park.
This is even better. We are celebrating Jurassic June, everybody. We're talking about the Jurassic Park original trilogy, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3. That's right, my personal favorite franchise. It always finds that soft spot every time. Doesn't matter how bad the movie is. I still love it. And that's why we're going to talk about it. But before we get started, real quick, everybody, if you guys want to support this podcast, you can go to saltynerdclub.com. Check out our Patreon page. Throw us some cheddar. Support the podcast. It'll help us to grow the channel and help us motivate us to make better and better content every week for you, not for us.
Because if you don't pay us, we're going to stay shitty.
We have stickers now.
We do have stickers. We have stickers. We got shirts. We got all kinds of cool stuff. So, yeah, go over there to saltynerdclub.com and show us some love. That being said, let's talk about dinosaurs, guys. I'm so freaking excited.
Roar!
Roar. Right? Okay, so I'm just
Actually,
going to
isn't it more like a... I can't even do it. I can't. Those stupid raptor noises.
You made me die.
I can't even do it. Whatever. It's so dumb.
Stop trying.
I just lost you guys. Cut. Edit the show. It's it. Over.
Yikes.
I got to find it now.
Choking on something there, bud.
We need to get like a raptor bark and put it in one of the noise buttons things. That would be
Just
actually
dolphin
cool.
noises, sped up and slowed down.
Is that really all it is?
That's all it is, pretty much. Dolphins and walruses and all this.
What about the T-Rex?
Elephant, lion?
You know what?
And
The
like-
T-Rex roar, I think that they used the Sand People roar from A New Hope
I think so.
to make that T-Rex roar, because it sounds just like the...
Well, that's how they made Chewie's voice.
You know, I do remember this. I know you're going to ask us our film experience about these later, but I'm going to say this. If I remember right, when they released Jurassic Park, it was brand new tech, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if I remember correctly, I think the theater I had went to had just installed brand new sound system
Ooh.
for this movie, and it was probably specifically for that T-Rex roar. Because man, I remember that thing was just insane. Just made my eyeballs pop out of my skull when it did it the first time. So
Yeah.
it was pretty
It's a
cool.
good sound. What? Yeah. I should have wrote some notes down or something. But yeah, the sound designer that did this movie is he's one of the best. It's amazing. I love all the sounds. But now that the movie's 20 plus odd years old, I'm watching it. I can pick out the different sound effects that they use. Like, oh, there's the elephant. Oh, there's that there's that tiger growl. Oh, there's the dolphin. I've watched these movies so many times now. It's just ingrained in my brain. I know all the little tidbits and secrets about how they made it. But anyway, I'm going to explain to you guys why I freaking love this franchise so much, so that you guys will get all the way off my back about it.
Not going to happen.
I was 5 years old when this movie came out, and it was the first movie I ever remember actually going to the theater to see. And
So it's your Star Wars.
it's
I get it. I totally get it.
oh, okay. I don't have to talk anymore then.
Nope.
You're done
Okay,
now.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Let Kadish talk for the rest of the hour.
Yeah, Kadish has the rest of the podcast. I'll see you guys
As he
later.
pulls out a book of things he wrote down. Here are my notes.
Here are my notes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it ever.
I'm not going to.
So I went to the theater. My dad took me. My mom was adamant that I was too young for this movie. She was like, you are not going to take him to that movie. He's going to have nightmares. He's going to be terrified. This is not inappropriate. It was like PG-13. People are getting eaten. Like, no. My dad's like, he's fine. It's dinosaurs. I was freaking terrified. I was sitting in the theater and I remember distinctly shaking, literally shaking in fear. And my dad had me like in his lap holding. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like watching the T-Rex chase the Jeep down the road when Ian's like, you think they'll have that on the tour? Like that moment, I was terrified. And of course the kitchen scene, like I was petrified at that. The raptors were the scariest thing in the world to me. And one of the I don't remember saying this, but my dad tells me all the time. He's like, I for sure thought when we walked out of there that you would like, I don't ever want to see a dinosaur ever again. You looked up at me and you were like, oh, this is my dad talking. He's like, you looked up at me and you were like, can we go watch it again?
Oh.
And then he was like, yes, as a matter of fact, we can.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with this movie and I just never looked back. And later on, many, many years later, my dad gave me the books because the books are definitely rated R. They're not like child friendly at all. Like it's not like I don't know. Spielberg did his Spielberg magic on it and made it kind of a family-friendly franchise. But the books from Michael Crichton are very dark, very explicit. And I read them when I was older. Actually, I read them on book on tape, I think. I don't remember who the narrator was, but that's probably where I got my love.
Maybe where your love for that came from.
Probably. It all leads back to Jurassic Park. But I read the books and I listened to the audio tapes and man, these books are freaking good. There's like as good as the movie, as good as I feel the movie is, the books are just like a whole nother level. And it's one of those things that I can always look back on. My dad and I have always gone to every single Jurassic Park movie in theaters together. We went to The Lost World, we went to Jurassic Park 3, and once I got old enough and I had a job, I started paying for him to go. So now it's like my thing to like, hey Dad, there's a new Jurassic Park movie. I'll pay for you. Let's go check it out. So it's that father-son thing. And having my little 5-year-old now, he freaking loves dinosaurs about as much as I did. And he loves these movies. And I'm going to see what this next one that comes out, Jurassic World Dominion, if it's appropriate to take him. But he's 5, so...
Don't matter.
I think I might just
Rite
take
of
him.
passage.
Yep.
I have a question about the books.
Yeah, talk to me.
When you say they're dark and graphic, are they murdery and sweary or are they sexy?
Sweary and gory.
Gory, okay.
Yes. Yeah, lots of... I mean, the first one...
Michael Crichton doesn't get sexy, Jude.
Yeah. He does
I don't know
sci-fi.
if you've ever read any of his books.
Maybe in his off time he does.
Well, he's dead, so.
He's a ghostwriter.
I don't read books.
You don't read books? Do you listen to books?
No.
Get out of here.
No.
Fired.
It's not the same. I don't, these people, it's like, oh yeah, I read that book. No, you didn't. You listened to it. That's not reading. That's not reading the book. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing?
No.
I think it is.
It absolutely is not.
How do you know if you
It's
don't read
not.
books or listen to them?
I mean, do you say I read the latest song on the radio today? You don't. It's a different experience.
I guess.
It's just like you can't.
But it's the same amount of time dedicated to it.
It's a different show, but it's
Like, hey, I listened to 17 hours of this novel. Like,
Yeah.
you're dedicating 17 hours of your life to listen to.
Yeah, how do you say that? Do you say
I listened to this book.
you listened to this book?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read the book.
well, that's fine.
But I did both. I listened to it and then I read them myself.
I know this book biblically.
It's like here it is for me. Okay, I spent God knows how long slogging through the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Okay,
I give you a lot of
now
credit.
some asshole comes up to me and goes, "Yeah, I read that book," but he really listened to it. No, it does not count. It's not the same
It's the
thing.
only way I could get through them. It's the only way I
not
could do
the
it.
same thing.
I've
You
never-
did not read those books. You listened to it.
I've actually never been able to get through the Lord of the Rings books.
Same.
What?
Yeah.
From an author?
I get to the first.
He's a writer, not a reader.
I get to the first chapter where they start singing, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can't read any more of this.
It's
my
a
favorite
hard
part.
read. It's a hard read.
It is.
I'm Tom Bombadil. This is not about dinosaurs anymore,
No,
guys.
just really quick. When those Lord of the Rings movies came out, and maybe we'll talk about them for real someday, but I had not read the books, and I knew they were coming out so far apart, right? So I told myself, I'm reading each book before I see the movie. And I did it. And I was very happy I did. But
That was the last time you ever read anything.
Proud of you.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. But
No, but these like Michael Crichton's novel, it's just there's a lot of different plot points that were taken out of the movie for obvious reasons. You can't have it would have been overinflated if they were to try to squeeze everything that was in the book in the movie. And I think some of the scenes that are actually some of the better parts of that novel. There's a scene where Alan Grant, Lex, and Tim they escape some area. They're on their way. They're trying to make it back to the visitor center, and the T-Rex is like sleeping. It fell asleep. And it's like laying in this little field area, and they have to sneak past it to get to a boat, and it like wakes up and it chases them into the water, and like it's a fantastic scene, and it's terrifying. You're like, oh my god, it's gonna get them. I'm not necessarily thinking that he would have been able to do that on the movie.
A dinosaur chased a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's good. That's good.
This is like Clerks 2, where the guy's like, "Oh, you watch Lord of the Rings, where they just walk the whole time." Like, I love dinosaur movies. Yeah, you just love watching people get chased by them. But no, I think I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, I fell in love with it because of my experience with my father and kind of growing up with that. So I have a heavy bias towards these movies. Like criticisms toward them just roll right off me. I'm like, whatever. Still a freaking awesome movie. So sorry.
No, you're right.
I totally get how you feel because that's how I am with shark movies.
Shark movies? Yeah. Well, except for the Meg.
You can't see it, but I just rolled my eyes so hard.
Alex just checkmated Jude.
The Meg is a dinosaur. It counts.
Prehistoric.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
The movie
Did you go to that with us?
No, I saw it at home. I rented it or something.
I walked out of that movie so pissed.
Oh, that movie was so bad.
She was because she's such a big fan of the book.
Yeah.
And
I read all the books.
See, that's the thing is I read the books after I saw the Jurassic Park movies. So somebody and they came out
that
really
makes a
quickly.
huge difference.
Because like Michael Crichton published the book and then the movie came out like 2 years later or something. So it was like really, really quick. It didn't have time to become like a big Michael Crichton's movie or Michael Crichton's book, and they didn't do it justice.
Do you know the story behind that?
I think probably not as much as you do, but I think I know.
Oh, he's smiling so Cheshire
I know
right
that
now. Just let
Steven
him go.
Spielberg read the book and contacted Crichton, was like, "Dude, this book is amazing. Can we make a movie out of it?" And Crichton was like, "Yeah, sure."
Not quite.
Can you give us like the Crib Notes version?
Well, basically, so Crichton had been working on Jurassic Park, and he met with Spielberg because Spielberg was executive producing ER. And so they were going over the script that would eventually become the basis for the ER show. And Crichton kind of mentioned that he was working on this book about dinosaurs. And as he was telling it to Spielberg was like, I want to make that into a movie. And Crichton was like, tell you what, pay me $1.5 million, you can make it into a movie. And so it started this bidding war because Spielberg wanted to give him the money. And eventually he got Universal to pony up the $1.5 million and an extra $500,000 to have Crichton adapt it to a screenplay. And so basically the story of Jurassic Park is, yeah, you want to turn it into a movie? Just give me a lot of money.
And
that's how it's supposed to work, right?
Such as Hollywood.
But it was through his association with Spielberg and making the ER show that Jurassic Park actually came to be in terms of the movie.
And weren't the sequels being written at the same time? Like the movie and the book were kind of being written at the same time?
Sort of. I was going to wait till we got to Lost World to talk about
Spoiler.
But anyway, do you guys have any stories about watching this movie for the first time? Experiences? Kadish, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. So I was like 16 when I saw this movie for the first time. And yeah, Vader just looked at you. It was kind of funny because around this time, I really wanted to be a special effects artist. And Terminator 2 had come out, I think, either the year before or 2 years before. And this movie actually owes a lot to James Cameron because he's the one who spent like 2 years pioneering the computer software that, was able to do a lot of these effects. And so coming off of Terminator 2, which is the movie that made me want to get into making movies and become a special effects artist initially, I was very interested in Jurassic Park when it came out because of the whole revolutionary special effects that they were doing.
Yeah, changed the game.
Yeah, and I must have seen it like 5 times in the theater. Like I was just like super impressed with it. I was in love with Spielberg at the time, and just every movie he ever made, I was just like breaking down and studying and watching over and over again. And it was a fun little cinematic experience, getting to see like dinosaurs come to life, because that was like a big thing. It's like nobody's ever seen dinosaurs like this. And it's kind of funny because originally Spielberg had just planned to do like the stop motion animation with the dinosaurs.
That made it into the movie too, because there was a scene where I think it was Dennis, what's the special effects guy's name? I know all the Star Wars guys go crazy about him. Dennis Muren?
That sounds right, yeah.
I think it's Dennis Muren. And he was working with the special effects, and of course they had somebody in there that was doing the stop motion, which was the original plan, was to have all the raptors and dinosaurs as stop motion. And it was like, Spielberg was like, oh, it looks great. But then somebody showed him a skeleton. It was only a skeleton. It had no muscles, no skin or nothing. A skeleton T-Rex walking through a field, and Spielberg was just blown away. And there was a line that he said to the stop motion guy, and he's like, "Oh, it looks like I'm out of a job." And then somebody behind him said, "Don't you mean extinct?" And that line is brought into the movie when Ian Malcolm is talking to Alan Grant, and Alan Grant's like, "I think I'm out of a job because they have real dinosaurs. What do they need me, a paleontologist, for?" And Ian Malcolm said, "Don't you mean extinct?" And it was like, it's a cool little hint, a little, ribbing towards the animatronic guys. But it actually, they utilized both teams really well, which is to Spielberg's credit. He didn't just like, "Oh, I don't need you guys anymore, fire them, move on, do everything computerized." What he did was he actually took the stop motion guys' knowledge of movement frame by frame, and he used them to translate it onto a computer screen with these like little robotic dinosaurs that they built that would track the motions, and they would have the guys do the stop motion, and it would translate it to the computer, and then the computer would go to the final product. So I always thought that was a really nice thing that Spielberg did, because he very easily could have been like, "All right, well, I don't need you anymore, so bugger off. I'm going to do this computer stuff." But no, he's like, "No, I think your knowledge can be translated and used efficiently," I mean, this movie still holds up like 20 some odd years later.
Yeah. One of the surprising things that I noticed on my rewatch was that the special effects hold up really well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the CGI, it wasn't all CGI, like it was blended with practical animatronic effects and stuff like that. And so like, it just, 20 years later, like this movie is still looking really good.
I almost feel like the first movie, the effects are better than the third one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was strange to me watching that.
You can make the argument, and I've seen, side-by-side comparisons of the new movies that Colin Trevorrow's doing with the original, and it's still, it's like,
the new movies are 100% computer, right?
Yes.
Because
except for Fallen Kingdom had animatronic. The Indoraptor was animatronic.
Okay.
But the Jurassic World, I think everything was computerized except for maybe a handful of scenes. But yeah. But one of the things that you were talking about, like the transitioning of using practical and computerized, one thing that really benefits the movie with the computerized version of the T-Rex and stuff is everything's shot at night with low light. Mm-hmm. It's always raining, so everything looks wet. So you don't have that like glossy plastic feel in a dry environment. There was one scene that transition was just freaking perfect, as somebody who just like loves like film and cinema and stuff like that, and how you set up a shot. But there's a scene where after the T-Rex leaves, Alan and Ian were in the truck looking out the windshield, and you see the T-Rex head, and then it rises up and it goes just out of frame, and then it changes to the CGI version like seamlessly. The head goes up and then it walks out, and you're like, it was such a cool scene to see, and they meshed those two scenes so well together. I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, this movie, the only thing that I think is starting to show its age the most is the kitchen scene with the raptors. I felt like that was just now starting to kind of seem a little iffy.
Well, another thing about this movie that kind of helps it stand the test of time is the fact that it's very well written. Mm-hmm. Like you can tell that like an actual writer was responsible for this screenplay, even though David Koepp gets credit as the screenwriter. A lot of this was Michael Crichton adapting his own book. Mm. And I can remember...
I'm sorry. Okay.
And I can remember after I saw this movie in the theaters, I went and bought the book and actually read the book. Mm. And that kind of got me into reading all of Michael Crichton's other stuff. And I think Jurassic Park is probably the only book of his that I actually found interesting, because a lot of his other books are very dry. They're all about the science.
I couldn't get through Prey. I think that was.
Try Andromeda Strain sometime.
I'll give it a shot.
Even Eaters of the Dead, which was that Viking book that he wrote. Like I was like, oh, this is about Vikings. This is gonna be cool. It was like, nope, really boring. And but Crichton was someone who really understood, how to tell like a good story just from like a meta point of view. And how I often complain about modern movies in the sense that the directors or the storytellers, they come up with set pieces and then they base the movie around these set pieces just to kind of as an excuse to do the set pieces as opposed to them actually being part of the story. And one of the things that I really like about the first Jurassic Park is that the set pieces are an outgrowth of the story, and they actually help to move the story along. Like that first scene when the T-Rex breaks out of his cage and he's like terrorizing the two cars, like that scene is like so iconic. Like I can remember, just like seeing that cup of water with the ripples as like, the footsteps.
Do you know the story behind that cup of water with the ripples?
With the violin string.
God damn it. Yes.
Can't you just have him?
It was
let him
it
have
was
one
a
thing.
guitar string, I believe, though. Well, either that or a piano string. But no, the funny part is that like the guy that was in charge of doing that one scene, Spielberg was like, hey, I want to get like perfect little ripples in a cup and have that film to kind of like showcase that the T-Rex is on its way or it's kind of around or something like that. And the guy was like, yeah, no problem. I got that. And he was like, it was weeks. He didn't know how to do it. Everything he tried made like different effects and it wasn't that perfect little like ripple effect that he wanted. And he's like, and like every week Spielberg would be like, hey, how's that scene going? He's like, oh, I got it. Everything's fine, Mr. Spielberg. Everything's good. And he was like, I can't do it. It was like the day on set where he showed up and he was like last ditch effort. Like, oh, I'm just going to like freaking put a guitar string underneath the dashboard of the car and pluck it and see if that works. And it just happened.
Oh, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I always laughed at that. Like the guy was like freaking out because he didn't know how to do it. And he kept telling Spielberg that he did. He's like, oh yeah, no problem. Got it in the bag. Anyway, keep going.
And Dean Cundy's cinematography in this movie is really good. And he's the guy who did Escape from New York. He was a cinematographer for that. And he's done all types of big movies, but I think this was the last movie before Spielberg switched cinematographers to the guy, Janusz Kaminski, the guy he's used like ever since. And I'm not a big fan of Janusz Kaminski's cinematography, and it always felt like pre that guy, Spielberg movies were a lot more colorful and a lot like more interesting in terms of how they lit stuff. So, it just felt like Jurassic Park was like a perfect storm of like, of filmmaking in the sense that the technology was new and groundbreaking. The story was good. The acting was good. The direction was good. And Spielberg really treated it like a horror film, which was what was really interesting. And it's easy to forget that the guy who made E.T. and Indiana Jones and stuff also made Jaws. And, his approach to this movie, even though people say it's for kids, it's like, well, he was making a monster movie. He was making a horror movie. And the way he staged the dinosaur scenes where those were the monsters. First it was the T-Rex, then it moved to the raptors and stuff like that. But the dark and stormy night, the lightning, all that stuff, it was really cool. And they actually, like when Spielberg actually set up a sequel with the loss of that shaving can that had all the embryos in it.
Yeah.
That never went anywhere.
Nope.
No, that got dropped.
Yeah, but overall, like it's a classic. Like there's just no denying Jurassic Park is a classic film.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Jude,
and it was also one of the first films to break $1 billion at the box office.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Every time it's in theaters, I go and see it. I went to the 20th anniversary, 25th anniversary. Every time it pops up at a local theater or something, I'm like, bought the ticket. Dad, we're going to the movies.
I think it was Spielberg's like third movie that became the highest grossing film of all time.
Nice.
Something like that.
Jude, you have anything to add to this conversation? Really?
No, I'm kidding.
That used to be my line.
Yeah.
Nope. I mean, I don't have the nostalgia or the history that y'all do for this movie. I enjoy this movie, and I agree that it holds up, and the storytelling is great, and the visual effects are awesome. My history with this movie is when it came out, I was in high school. God, I'm old. And
Makes me feel good.
I was dating my very shitty high school boyfriend at the time. And I watched it with him. And that's kind of the first thing that I think of when I watched this movie.
What a terrible
He's a terrible person.
And then the second time she watched it with her shitty fiance.
Well, next time it comes to town, we'll all go together.
There you go.
Yay.
You'll have a good memory that way of it.
Nice. It's a good idea.
So
That's it?
So
And that's all I've got to say about that.
All right. Do you have I'm sure we're going to talk for at least a little bit longer. Do you have any favorite scenes or anything like that you wanted to talk about? Because how many times have you seen it?
Oh, probably just maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay. And just recently you watched it for the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. What does anything strike you now versus then? Or
I mean, I love that scene with the T-Rex and the kids. And I don't know. I like it beginning to end. I have more to say, I think, about the second one than I do about the first one. Because I usually have more to say about things that I don't like than things that I do like. So
I will
I'll
say
let y'all continue.
My favorite scene is just Sam Jackson saying, "Hold on to your butts."
hold on to your butts. That's right. There's so many great one-liners in this movie.
Dodson, we got Dodson over here.
You didn't say the magic word. It's like just riddled with perfect like one-liners and stuff. Matt Vader, what's
Yes,
your
sir.
experience with this movie? When did you see it?
Well, I obviously went and saw it when it first came out. I don't remember when exactly or who I was with or what theater, but I do know I went. I remember the sound being very impressive. It was just a good movie. It was fun. It's a good, fun Spielberg movie. You know, it's a classic, just like you said. I don't have a lot to add to the conversation, but that hasn't been said already. But it was groundbreaking. It was awesome.
Yeah. I would like to point out that in the book, what's the name? What's the main archaeologist guy? Alan Grant.
Yeah.
So in the book, Alan Grant, he actually likes children.
Yes.
And Spielberg made the decision to have the movie version not like children so that he could actually have an arc
Yeah.
in the story where like he's stuck saving these kids' lives and he comes to like care for them and stuff like that. And that's always to me the sign of like a really good filmmaker is like you can take these characters and you can like figure out a way to give them interesting arcs. And one of the things that Spielberg has always excelled at was like the kind of the same theme that James Cameron follows in his movies. Is like his films are always about the family unit. It's about people coming together as a family. And when you look at Alan Grant, the character, he's this kind of upright archaeologist guy. Like he doesn't really like children. In fact, his introduction is about him. Yeah, his introduction is about him basically traumatizing a little kid.
It was amazing.
And throughout the course of this movie, you see him kind of become this father figure to these 2 kids who are going through, like, their parents are going through a divorce and their grandpa's kind of an asshole. And
that's another thing too. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I rewatched this movie, I didn't remember, what's the old dude's name?
Hammond. John Hammond.
I didn't remember him being such a kook.
He was a little weird.
Yeah.
I think that was Richard Attenborough.
Yeah, it was.
Like the actor himself, like kind of brought that. Because in the book, Hammond's like a real jerk.
He's a jackass.
Okay.
He's pretty evil in the book. But like when Spielberg cast Sir Richard Attenborough, you know, this is the guy who did like, you know, these like big Planet Earth documentaries, and you know, he's this very friendly, affable guy, and so like, and in the book he actually dies, he gets killed, but in the movie Spielberg was like, well, I really like this guy, so maybe we shouldn't kill him off.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the book that kicked it.
Malcolm died in the book.
Malcolm technically dies in the book, but they do a little narrative backflip to get him back for the second one.
They retconned it.
Yeah, they retconned it because everybody liked the character so much.
And that was all because of Jeff Goldblum's portrayal.
100%. Yeah. Everybody was like, dude, Jeff Goldblum and Ian Malcolm, that's the greatest, you know, character in the whole movie. I love him. And they were like, so he was like a fan favorite in the movie. So when Crichton was writing the second book, essentially, like it's never outright stated that he died. I don't think in the first book. I think it's implied that he didn't make it because they kind of set it up like, hey, Ian's dying if we don't get out of here within this amount of time.
I think in the book he died of an infection from his leg injury.
Yeah, something like it was something kind of,
and it was in like the very last chapter.
Yeah,
or
it was
something like that.
very, very end.
Was he as like enjoyable of a character in the book as he was in the movie?
Yeah, almost identical to the
Okay.
movie. Yeah,
So
they stayed pretty true.
He's Jeff Goldblum in the book?
Pretty close.
Really?
Yeah, except for maybe the mannerisms, but as far as like the Ian Malcolm's personality of being like this high mighty, I'm smarter than everybody else. Like, yeah, that's all there.
I just felt like he was me and Jeff Goldblum. Because Jeff Goldblum's the same dude in every movie Jeff Goldblum's in.
It's written specifically for
Yeah,
him.
it just fit the character so well.
Well, the whole point of Ian Malcolm was he was supposed to be one of these like academic rock stars. Like he was like the fringe mathematician guy. So like he had like the spiky hair and the leather jacket, and like not the type of guy you'd look at and be like, oh, that guy's into math. You know, it's like, he was kind of like the cool dude. You know.
Yeah, and he, again, like his whole attitude was like, I'm smarter than everybody in this room.
Yeah,
like that's
chaos.
Chaos theory. I know exactly what's gonna, like his whole attitude when he goes to the island in the book and in the film is like, this is a failure, like right away, immediately. He's like, this is gonna fall apart in like T-minus 5 minutes.
And he's correct.
And he was correct.
And one of the interesting bits of about the book was kind of because Crichton likes to get into like the weird science stuff in his books. And so his explanations about chaos theory were, I thought, like really interesting.
They're chapters long.
Yeah.
Whole chapters with Ian just like talking serious mathematician, like mumbo jumbo.
And that sounds terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but luckily in the movie they were able to kind of like just condense it down into something more digestible.
I still like it though. I don't know, when I'm listening to the book or reading the book myself, it makes sense because it kind of gives you context for what is happening in the movie, why things are falling apart.
Well, he basically in the movie just wrapped it all up with a little rain dot scene going down her face or whatever, right?
Yeah, like it's unpredictable. Everything's unpredictable,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to nature. And that's one of the driving themes of this whole franchise is like you can't, and no matter how hard humans try, you cannot control nature.
No.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like the newer movies are kind of staying in line with that theme, which is why I like them, even though they're not perfect.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
That's the theme.
Life finds a way.
As long as the casinos stay open, we'll be okay.
Nope. They're still shut down. Anyway, so yeah, like the characters, like if you're looking at them from the versus the book, there's a lot of different things that happen. Henry Wu, the doctor who was in charge of like the genetics lab and stuff like that in the movie, he survives. He gets off the island long before everything goes to hell. But in the book, he was there with them, and he ends up getting like eaten by a raptor, and it's like pretty graphic. Like it tells you like, hey, his stomach gets ripped open and his intestines get out, and the raptor grabs him and drags him outside, and he's like screaming. Like, yeah, that's graphic. I love this book so much.
Yeah, the book is way more violent than the movie.
Oh yeah, leaps and bounds.
You're making me want to read the book.
Yeah,
You should,
Now I
definitely.
kind of want to go pick it up.
And the raptors, I mean, as scary as the raptors are in the movie, the book, it's like level 10.
might be a book I can listen to.
I will say, out of all the Crichton
Scott
books,
Brick narrates that book.
out of all the Crichton books that I've read, Jurassic Park's definitely the best.
Yeah. Actually, we'll talk about it in a minute, but like between the two of them, Jurassic Park is probably like the best written one. But I actually really love the Lost World book. It's such a fun adventure movie that it just goes completely haywire. I love that book. That's my favorite one out of the two.
The book or the movie?
The book.
Okay.
Yeah, the book. Oh, no. The movie. Like this is one of the times
I
where.
can't wait to dive in.
Well, we can in a minute. If anybody else has anything to say about the first one, but I wanted to make sure that we shout out to not shout out, but I wanted to make sure that we talk about John Williams' musical theme.
Oh yeah,
like you were mentioning.
copyright.
Boom.
Claimed.
Claimed. One of the things that you mentioned was actually kind of interesting is that you're right, like Spielberg shot this movie like a horror movie, or at least more along the lines of like Jaws, where you don't actually
Creature feature.
Yeah, you don't actually see anything until almost an hour into the movie is when the T-Rex finally shows up. So it's a pretty slow burn, but once things happen, then it happens quickly, and you have like 45 minutes of just pure terror.
Totally builds up that anticipation.
The whole first act of the first Jurassic Park is just set up.
Yeah.
I think that scene where they are driving into Jeeps and they come up on the hill and they see the.
Oh, that's my dad's favorite scene.
I think that's my favorite scene in the movie too.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we got to see the dinosaurs.
Yeah. It's like where,
and man, what a
Alan
sight.
Grant, he just like buckles over and gets on his knees and stuff. And it's just like, I mean, that was a great scene. Mm-hmm. It was just like, what would a normal person do? And all of a sudden there's a 80-foot tall brontosaurus eating leaves off the top of the
Brachiosaurus. Yeah.
What a brachiosaurus. Sorry.
No, I'm just messing with you. It is a
But
Brachiosaurus.
yeah,
though.
that was a great scene.
Yeah, it's my dad's favorite
Yeah.
scene. That's the one he always points to.
And
when
that's
he's
the
like,
one where the theme swells, and,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of get to see the special effects and all their
He
majesty.
reaches down and twists her head over to look at the herd.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that.
They're moving in herds. They do move in herds. Like it's a great, fantastic scene. I wanted to talk about the score though, because you mentioned it. That's like when we hear it in its full glory. Spielberg made this movie more along the lines of like a Jaws horror type movie, but John Williams shot it more like
You mean scored it?
scored the movie more like a I don't know, like a love story to nature, like how majestic these creatures are. They're not monsters; they're just animals.
It is a very majestic score.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's another
good
thing.
word.
If you look at like something like Jaws, like dun dun, like you don't. There's none of that in Jurassic Park anywhere. It's not scored like a monster movie at all. I mean, there's like dangerous music going on. I think the darker tempos are when they go to the raptor paddock and they have like that I can't remember how it goes, but it's a darker theme for the music. But other than that, like it's kind of presented of like, and it's mentioned in the movie as well, that these aren't monsters. They're just animals. And it's the first time, it's the cat and the canary, right? And I think that's another line from one of the newer movies with Colin Trevorrow is like to a canary, a cat is a monster. It's all just relative on your perspective on things, but these are just animals and they're just here to try to survive. And it's just a fact of life. And that's what causes all this chaos is somebody's like, well, let's mix humans and dinosaurs together and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that is what kind of makes it so iconic too, is that the blending of genres in the way that it was shot and scored and written, it just blended together so beautifully and organically that it created this very one-of-a-kind, iconic movie.
Yeah.
And it is interesting because Crichton, being the geek that he is, like a lot of the book is really about like all the DNA aspects of like, genetically engineering like a dinosaur. And in the movie, they kind of gloss over a lot of that stuff. Like they show like how
They have like a little montage where
Yeah.
they go through the little ride.
Yeah.
yeah, they have like a little cartoon DNA strand.
Mr. DNA.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
DNA. Yeah.
And they explain it in a way where like anyone can understand what DNA is.
Yeah.
But they take this really complicated subject, which in the book he spends like chapters talking about, and they just kind of condense it down, and then it's like, okay. But one of the interesting aspects of the movie to me was like like when we find out that the dinosaurs are mating or reproducing, because as a plot point they said, oh, all the dinosaurs are female, so they can't reproduce. We have a very controlled environment. And Alan Grant later discovers like, oh, they used amphibian DNA to kind of fill in the gaps with the dinosaurs, and amphibians have been known like in a single sex environment to actually change sexes.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that kind of solves that little mystery there.
Self-reproduce.
So like it had like, just a really good story where like,
It's this really good setup for the
Yeah.
whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, like everything in this movie is explained and properly set up and paid off. And, because once the park kind of gets sabotaged and the dinosaurs get loose, like that's when the action starts and everything starts going like, full steam ahead. But because they spent that first act just setting up everything, they didn't need to slow down. They could just like go full steam ahead to the end.
You would think some current filmmakers would take that and
You would
use
think,
it as an example.
you would think Spielberg would continue to know how to do that, but apparently he forgets every couple movies.
Takes too long and costs too much.
Yeah. There's one thing I want to mention about the book that kind of addresses a lot of the things that happen in the movie that kind of gets condensed. But in the book, there's like this tracking system that they have on the island that helps them to keep track of where the animals are and how many there are. And Ian Malcolm immediately is like, that system doesn't work. And of course, everybody on the island is like, what are you talking about? We've spent millions of dollars designing this computer program. It works perfectly. It tells you everything you need to know, blah, blah, blah. And later on in the movie, they find out that once they find out that the animals are breeding, Ian Malcolm's like, so this computer program is designed to pick up how many animals? And they're like 327 animals on the island. That's, it checks to make sure they're there. And he's like, change the algorithm to detect 400 animals. And it just goes tick, 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 tick. and it starts tracking all the animals, and apparently they've been breeding for like months and months and months, and it's completely out of control, and nobody had a clue because they just always they're trusting the technology.
Yeah, basically they said, okay, we have 300 dinosaurs on this island, so we set our software to only track 300 dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And so like as they were breeding, the software didn't pick up the extra numbers. And then once they started lifting the ceiling on the amount of numbers for the computer to track, they realized, oh shit,
Yeah.
there's a lot of dinosaurs on this island.
There's another really cool plot point that I'm kind of upset that they never addressed in any of the movies, except for they're starting to address it more in the newer ones, but even it's almost too little too late. But in the first book, it's set up that the dinosaurs have gotten off the island. Like there's a whole scene where there's a baby in a brand new born baby in a crib and at some hospital in Costa Rica area. And the little compies, the little green ones from the second movie, the little chicken-sized ones, there's like hundreds of them loose on the mainland, and they hop into this little hospital area and they start eating the baby. And that's a graphic scene in the book. And it was like, it's a continued plot point. Like, hey, we found this dinosaur, send it to, the lab over in New York and see if they can analyze it and find out what it is. And eventually Alan Grant actually gets a X-ray copy of the animal, and somebody was like, hey, can you check the skeleton? And he's like, that's a Procompsognathus. Like, what is this? Is this a news thing, or did you guys find this somewhere? And he's like, no, this is a live animal. We just caught it. It was eaten by another animal, and we found the carcass. And he's like, that's a dinosaur. So it's a really cool plot point that I really wish that the movies would have picked up on more.
Yeah, there were a couple scenes from the first book that they didn't include in the first movie that they
shoehorned into the second one.
Yeah, they shoehorned it. That's a good term for it.
Into the second movie?
Yeah. Yeah, the girl on the beach, that was
Yeah, that was from the first book,
That was
right?
from the first book,
I saw
yeah.
something on YouTube
Yeah,
that was...
the thing when they were trapped underneath the waterfall and the
Yes.
Tyrannosaurus was trying to eat them. That was from
Yeah.
the first book as well.
That was a cool scene.
Should we start talking about the Lost World?
We should. We should.
it.
So before we do that, though, let's do a quick little shout out to our own stuff. You guys can go to saltynerdstore.com if you want to check out some of our merchandise. We have some stickers. We got some coffee mugs. One of my favorite that we just made is out now. It's got the DeLorean on it, and it says, "We were promised flying cars, not face masks and bad sci-fi." Shout out to Nick Sheffer, our Patreon, who came up with that quote. I just thought it was perfect, so I made it into a mug for him. That's available there. Also, a bunch of other stuff. So just go check it out. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can go to saltynerdstore.com. Takes you straight to our Teespring account, and you can check out what we have there. All right. Let's get into The Lost World. I feel like you guys have a lot more to say about this.
Yeah.
So I just want to start with saying the budget for the first one was $63 million. The budget for the second one was $73 million. So the difference between the budget was $10 million.
They spent $10 million
more.
building the...
Look at Jude doing research and stuff.
They spent $10 million building
proud of her.
those trailers and those special off-road vehicles with the...
Yeah.
That's where that $10 million went.
I feel like the money went to the wrong places.
And it's funny because the big animatronic dinosaurs that they used, they were so heavy that they, instead of trucking them around to sets, they had to build the sets around them and then tear down those sets and build up the
my
new
God.
ones whenever they switched. So.
Yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention the Stan Winston Studio, the guy, the crew that was in charge of all the animatronics for all these movies. It's just incredible work. Absolutely incredible.
Oh, he's a legend. He did the Terminator.
Yep.
Yeah. I just
He did Predator.
I get like so involved in watching like YouTube videos from his YouTube channel. Stan Winston Studio, I think, has a YouTube channel that they just show old archive footage of them working with the raptors and with the Dilophosauruses and T-Rexes, and I love it.
I used to write them a letter every month begging to be an intern.
Really? Oh, and they never accepted you?
They never even got back to me.
Oh, how dare they? I would be an intern. That would be amazing. I'd work there for free for sure. I'd make them coffee every day.
I wouldn't work anywhere for free.
No? I'd do it. Just to see
I don't
T-Rex.
like the whole intern
That's a
thing.
life-
I'm doing
That's
this for
bullshit.
free.
That's a
This is a
lifelong dream.
lot of work.
It's a lifelong. It is. It's a lifelong dream of mine is to be able to see one of the animatronic T-Rexes before they get shuffled off into Hollywood
I
storage.
can go buy one of those blow up ones that people run around. Just walk through the neighborhood.
That'd be hilarious. All right, so let's talk before we get into the weeds. Let's talk about the Lost World. Jude, you haven't said too much about the first movie, so you seem to have some pretty good
This
opinions.
movie has everything.
Go for it, girl.
Every trope. It has the shitty daughter. It has the cowboy. It has the military. It has the absurd hunter, crazy person. It has the scientist. It has dinosaurs. The only thing it's lacking is nudity.
So did you not like it?
I hate this movie.
Why?
It's so bad.
Why do you
It's
hate it?
so bad. I just hate every character in this movie. Everyone was just over the top, obnoxious, and shitty.
Wow.
It was funny when we were watching it. I had forgotten that Vince Vaughn was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he had
Earth first.
and basically for swingers they had to go to Spielberg to get like permission to use like a piece of music from one of his movies. I think it was Jaws or something like that. And so Spielberg had seen a screening of Swingers, and he was really impressed with Vince Vaughn. So he's like, "Hey, do you want to be in Jurassic Park?" And Vince Vaughn was like, yes. and so this was like his first big movie after he hit it big with Swingers. And when he shows up on screen, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot
Vince Vaughn.
he's on there."
Everyone in this movie is either an idiot or an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny, Jude, when you said this movie was lacking nudity, because Julianne Moore had just done Boogie Nights, I think, and she played.
Oh, really?
She played a porn actress in that.
That came out before this?
I think it did. Huh. Because that was something that kind of launched her into the limelight, because she hadn't been like a very big draw up until then.
Tell me why you think what you just said. Everybody is either an idiot or an asshole. So tell me like specifically moments that say that to you. I'm confused.
I just feel like it. Okay, so was the daughter in the book?
No, the daughter was a mesh of two characters.
Okay.
In the book, there's a character named Arby and a little girl named Kelly.
And I can't wait to explain to you guys why that character came about.
The one in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Arby was a young black kid who was like a super nerd, very smart with computers, very smart with math and stuff like that. And Kelly was more of like the tomboyish, physical type person who would go out and do stuff. And they were friends.
So it was kind of like the brother and sister from the first book. They had a version of that in the second book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
She wasn't a gymnast though, right?
No.
Yeah, it was just. I just don't think it was very well written. I felt like the dialogue between characters was not believable.
There was a weird stint in movies where people were like, let's have all the characters talk at once in an incoherent fashion so that
the crosstalk.
The crosstalk. Let's have everybody crosstalk because it makes everything feel natural and fast and witty. I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the worst part of this movie.
I hate when people ask stupid questions in a movie, which if you're in that movie, you should know the answer to that question before you ask it. Like when the
Give me an example.
When the one guy with the engine group or whatever, he was like, "What's a velociraptor?" And I out loud was like, "Dude, what are you doing here? What are your qualifications for even being with
was on
this
the
group
InGen
on
team?
this island? You don't know what a velociraptor is?
So
Go
it was
read a book."
It was the Peter Stormare character.
He was essentially just a hired gun. Like that's literally all it was.
Yeah, but you'd think they'd have given him because the main safari guy had a dossier on like all the different dinosaurs. You'd think every guy. in
Yeah,
that team
everybody
would've-
should have had to have read that.
Yeah, but that's good management. And who says that exists anywhere?
Okay, well, you're going to an island where there's dinosaurs,
Yeah, but
so
even,
you should be
even
prepared.
Hammond's crew didn't know that. Like Ian was like, well, you came here. What did you expect you were going to see? And they were like, we don't know. Like
big lizards.
Big lizards. Like it's kind of the running joke because this island was a big secret, and InGen tried to keep everything real hush hush. There's a whole conversation
but-
at the beginning of the movie.
The difference is that Hammond had them coming there to sort of like evaluate things. They weren't getting involved.
Yeah.
These guys with the engine group were coming to like
Loot the place.
loot the place
Mm-hmm.
and like take charge. And in order to do that, you should know what the fuck you're walking into.
Yeah, a lot of these guys they came off as like soldiers,
Idiots.
mercenaries.
Yeah.
And you would think that, if they know that they're going into a situation where there are predators present, they'd have at least done some rudimentary homework on like how to, protect themselves.
They did because they said, "Hey, we know that the
But the whole not knowing what a velociraptor is what Jude's point is.
I was very triggered.
you." I can see your point. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't expect if you're basically a hired gun, you get a call go to this job. You're going to some island. You're picking up some animals, whatever. It's a paying gig.
But also keep in mind, this is the character that died trying to take a shit.
Yeah, and like he's got that zapper thing. Like, what is that even for? You're just torturing and they're dinosaurs, you jackass. You're going to just
he's a
torture
jackass.
a dinosaur and be like, I'm the fucking king of this fucking island.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're an idiot.
That's his
and
character.
I already knew that you were going to die. And then he just gets lost. He falls and he gets lost. What are you? You're not a mercenary. You're not a jungle
And he
guy.
never even
You're
gets
not
to
an
take a shit.
expert on anything. You're still holding your shit in. And then you get murdered. You're just dead.
And his
the whole
death
purpose for his character was to just irritate me.
and his death was basically how John Hammond died in the book, in the first book.
Yeah, it's exactly
He went out
the
to
same
take a
way.
poop.
No, John Hammond went outside the visitor center area. He literally fell down a hill, and because there was a little bit more believable because he was an older guy. So when he fell, he hurt himself and he couldn't get back up. And the little green compy things came and ate him.
Well,
which
that's
is the
more
same thing.
believable because he's an old man. This
Yeah.
guy's supposed to be like fit as a fiddle, walking through a jungle, taking charge leader guy, and he just falls and gets lost and gets eaten. It was so stupid.
And I think the biggest problem Jude and I had while we were watching this movie is that
Don't you speak for me.
the characters.
Here we go.
Here we go again.
The character, all the characters act stupidly. Like they should know better than to do certain things, and they just do them anyway because if they don't, then
Like what?
Then you can't have like the big set pieces. Like for instance, saving the baby T-Rex because he's got a broken leg.
Yeah.
And like the entire time Vince Vaughn's carrying the baby T-Rex, what's her name? Julianne Moore's character.
You have a problem with that?
Well, I have a problem because she obviously knows it's a bad idea to bring the T-Rex
Yeah,
out
she
of the
knows
nest.
all of this stuff about dinosaurs and she's researching them and about how she's like, oh, I believe that the parents of a T-Rex would absolutely care for it.
But
and then
guys,
she just
guys.
steals it.
They have to carry the T-Rex into the mobile home so they can have the 30-minute
Exactly.
montage in the middle of the movie of the T-Rexes knocking the mobile home off the cliff.
Yeah.
And that's the issue is that
Terrible.
Like it was all because they needed to justify the set piece.
Yeah.
And but the motivation behind the character should have been smart enough to know that like that was going to happen if they did this. Like Julianne Moore's character, from the minute she saw Vince Vaughn was carrying that baby T-Rex, was telling him this is a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing this. And yet she just goes along with it.
Well, yeah, it's too late now.
No, it's not. You
These
just-
people are animal lovers. They're basically PETA light, right? So they find out that this jackass breaks the leg of some animal just to bait the other animal in. And Vince Vaughn, he's Greenpeace, Earth First. It's revealed later on in the movie that his character has been known to do these like criminal activity stuff in favor of like the environment. He's basically an environmental terrorist. So like to see him like, oh my God, these jackasses just broke this animal's leg just to bait it. I got to save it.
I mean,
so he takes it and he saves it.
You can
Julianne
justify
Moore's
it.
character, Dr. Harding, knew it was a bad idea, but at that point, is also her inclination to at least save the animal or try to.
You can justify these individual things, but for the most part, consistently throughout this movie,
No, you're fine.
the characters just act dumb.
And then she still has like the blood of the baby all over her and doesn't realize that the T-Rex is going to track her down after it came back to kill her because of what she did.
It came back to get her baby.
No. It came back
No,
to get her
after they
baby.
got-
And then
Oh,
it
after
came
they got
back
the baby.
again to make sure that the person who
And
kidnapped her baby.
They explained why that happened too, because the T-Rex is now moving into that area. Felt like that was a part of their territory now because they had their baby was there. They felt like the trailer and the area around that was theirs, so they fought.
I think to me, the biggest issue I had with this movie was that it was just, it seemed like everything was just to be bigger and more explosion-y
Yeah, we got
and more
two T-Rexes
Yeah, now
now.
we got two T-Rexes. Now we got more dinosaurs running through the jungle. Now we got more people hunting
Got
the
people
dinosaurs.
on motorcycles.
Yeah, it just seemed really over the top.
Yeah,
to
that
me,
all
you
that
know,
stuff
and
with the InGen crew that came in, way over the top. You're 100%
So
right.
obnoxious.
I-
It just it wasn't
Because in the book,
explained well. It was just
essentially the same thing happens, but it's just happens in a different way. So you guys remember Dotson from the first movie? He's got-
Dotson. You got Dotson over here.
See, nobody cares.
Yeah.
See, like that guy is a huge part of.
He
these
was like the
books.
main bad guy.
Yes,
He-
he's the main bad guy.
Hammond's nephew in the movie took his place.
In a terrible way, but yes.
Okay.
and it's weird because you'd think Spielberg would carry over that character, but
It would have been a perfect opportunity because Dotson is like a Bond villain, basically. He works. He's a God, what's the
He
word?
works for a rival.
He works for Biosyn, which is a rival company
Okay.
against InGen, and
They want their own dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, they're trying to catch up on the technology of dinosaurs so they can capitalize on it. And their way of Biosyn's like the evil biological company, because they're like, we want these animals not to showcase them for like a park or something. We want to so that we can experiment on them and test them and further the
because all the animal rights activists were giving them a hard time for experimenting on pigs and dogs. And so like they're like, well, technically dinosaurs are extinct, and so if we make these animals, then they don't have any rights, so we can do whatever we want to them.
Yeah, that was the justification basically for Biosyn. And Dotson was like the worst of the worst. Like he did human experimentation without telling people. I can't remember specifically what it was, but it described in the book how he went down to South America and like gave these people this medicine without telling them, and it like killed a bunch of people. And he was
And
like,
bear
well,
pig.
yeah. And so anyway, he in the book, he's the main antagonist to the entire group, and it's a much smaller group of people. It's only like him and 3 other dudes in one Jeep. They show up in a boat. They have a mission. They have to go in. They're going to try and get some eggs. No weapons. They have this like little sonic machine. I don't know why they didn't have any weapons. Don't look at me like that. It's a plot hole.
and created by Michael Crichton, actually.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's the surprising part.
I mean, the book
in the movies
itself,
they brought lots of guns.
Yeah. In the book is, I mean, this is my favorite book because the adventure of it and how everything kind of unfolds is so much fun to read. But essentially the same thing happens, right? Dotson breaks the leg of the T-Rex. I think it's more by accident than on purpose. And then
they were trying to steal eggs in the book.
Yeah, they're trying to steal the eggs from the T-Rex, and he slips and falls into the nest, and he steps on the baby T-Rex, breaks its leg. Sarah Harding and a couple of the other guys that are with Ian find out about it, and they try to rescue the animal because it's the same thing. They're like animal activists. They want to save the animals as best as possible, and the same events happen.
And it's funny in the books, kind of in keeping with the burgeoning 90s new wave feminism, Malcolm gets his leg re-injured during that trailer scene where they're hanging off.
Sarah Harding's the main character.
And Sarah Harding basically becomes the main character of the book at that point.
Yeah.
Because Malcolm's just so doped up on morphine, he can't even operate.
At least it's justified. I mean, it's mentioned multiple times. He's on a cane most of the book. And
but she's a real badass. Doesn't she like carry him on her back at a certain point?
Okay, so you guys remember the trailer hanging over the edge? How they all kind of like climb the rope?
Was that in the book?
It was in the book.
I didn't read the book.
You should.
That was one of 2 things that Spielberg wanted to take from the book and put in the movie.
It's like, are we doing a book review or a movie review?
Both.
I like hearing the difference.
We talked
between a
about
book
Star
and a
Wars for
movie.
3 hours. Give me this.
It's his favorite. Let him have it.
Okay.
Fucking salty bastard.
I'll go in the other room.
It's his baby.
Until we talk about movies
He
again.
doesn't read.
Anyway, yeah, he doesn't read. I don't read movies.
I don't.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Kurosawa film.
Even then.
You
haven't watched any Kurosawa films.
Half of one.
Anyway, so the events kind of play out, but the book is much better.
Yeah,
Jackass.
One of my
I can see the headline
Don't
now.
let him yuck your yum.
Vader gets salty about books.
one of my favorite scenes in the movie in terms of like how stupid it is, and this just goes to showcase like the stupidity of these characters. There's a scene where so the Tyrannosaurus is kind of like comes back to the mercenary camp when everyone's sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And they wake up and they realize that there's a big T-Rex there, so everyone starts running around. And like the right-hand guy to the main safari dude who's like leading the expedition to capture these dinosaurs, as they're running away, they come to this field with the tall grass, and the guy knows that raptors are hiding in the grass, and he's yelling, "Don't go into the tall grass! Don't go into the tall grass!" Right before he runs right into the tall grass,
Yeah,
like he
he's
literally
still saying it as he's running into the tall grass.
He literally stops, yells at people not to go into the tall grass, and then immediately runs into the tall grass. And it's like the movie is just filled with stupid stuff like
But they had to have that cool scene with the raptors running through the grass.
Dude, the raptors are criminally underutilized in this movie. Criminally underutilized.
Well, let me talk about the story of this movie for just a minute. So the interesting part about this is that Michael Crichton had never written a sequel to any of his books before. And he got so many letters from kids about Jurassic Park that he decided, okay, I'm going to write a sequel to it. Plus, I'm sure the money from Universal helped with that decision. So this is the first movie that first book he did a sequel to, and Steven Spielberg, the only movies that he's done sequels to were the Indiana Jones movies, and this is his only other franchise that he's done a sequel to. So an interesting parallel there. But after that movie hit big, so Michael Crichton, I think he wrote 2 more books before he wrote the Lost World in between when Jurassic Park was released. And so as he was writing this book, he didn't have any real communication with Spielberg while he was working on it. And so Spielberg and David Koepp, the screenwriter from the first movie, while Crichton was writing this book over the course of like a year or 2 or something like that, Koepp and Spielberg were off on their own, and they were kind of spitballing ideas for a sequel as well. And so basically David Koepp was getting all these letters from kids saying, oh, can you like not wait a full hour before you introduce the dinosaurs in the next movie? Can you like put in a Brontosaurus or a Stegosaurus or like whatever? So Spielberg was looking at all these letters from fans and being like, okay, we should have this in here and we should have that in there and stuff like that. And this was before what they knew the story that Michael Crichton was coming up with. And so when Crichton released the book, David Koepp got a copy of it and went to Spielberg. And Spielberg said, there's only 2 things from this book I want in my movie. I want the scene with the trailers hanging off the cliff, and I want the second island. So like those were the 2 things that they took from the book. Everything else, they were just like, nah, we're going to do our own thing. And so whereas with the first movie, you had Michael Crichton helping to adapt his book to a screenplay, Michael Crichton had no involvement in the screenplay for the second movie. And this was... The Lost World was almost entirely David Koepp with guidance from Steven Spielberg. And if you know anything about David Koepp's career, he's not a very good writer when left to his own devices.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell, like, I believe Kathleen Kennedy, who produced the movie, she produced the original Jurassic Park.
I know.
So she was...
And Indiana Jones.
I know.
All right.
So she
That
was
was back when she was getting coffee for the director.
Yeah, she was. She was basically quoted as saying that you know just like Michael Crichton doesn't have any help when he's writing his books, Steven Spielberg doesn't have any help when he's making his movies, and so like she made it clear that Crichton and Spielberg didn't communicate on how this film was going to go. And I think you can tell that just because like at a certain point Spielberg was like, I want a scene where dinosaurs raging through San Diego, and that was not in the book.
Oh God, no, no.
But one of the things that really bothered me about the movie, and it has nothing to do with race or anything like that, but it was the fact that you had this black daughter of Ian Malcolm's, and they never explain why she's black. Like, and I wanted to do research into this because I was like, like that always kind of bugged me that, like if you're going to do that, at least explain, the relationship. And it's a really convoluted story about like how this came about. So like, what was the daughter's name?
Kelly.
Okay. So Kelly was at first an amalgamation of the 2 kids from the book. And it all started because Spielberg had met this young actress. He had seen her in some type of play, I believe, or some type of like TV movie. And he really liked her, and he was like, I want to put you in one of my movies. And so he was like, I'm going to put her in Jurassic Park in this role. And so David Koepp basically created this role of Kelly, and originally she was going to be like an inner city student that Malcolm was tutoring.
That's more in line with the books.
Yeah. But then David Koepp couldn't figure out why Nobel Prize winning mathematician would be tutoring a inner city youth.
You know what they came up with in the book?
What's that?
So there's a character named Levine who's kind of taking the point behind this. He's the main reason why they go to the island. This guy, he's a super rich, like hoity-toity, has all the money in the world, trust fund child. And he's into science, and he follows Malcolm around like a little lost puppy dog, and he's really looking up to him and all this stuff. And he ends up because he's such a jackass, he's driving through a school zone in his like Ferrari at like 100 miles an hour, and he gets pulled over and arrested. And the judge says to pay off the judgment or whatever, you're going to work at this school voluntarily for X amount of months or whatever, and that's how you're going to do your what's it called,
public service.
To pay off your crime. And he said, and that's how he comes in contact with the two kids that go to this school, and that's where the connection comes in. So
I mean, I don't necessarily think that they needed to make her an inner city kid just because she was black, but she could have just been like his intern or something.
But regardless, so David Koepp couldn't figure out, how to justify this. So instead, he looks at the theme that him and Spielberg were working on about like the whole nature versus nurture and like having the dinosaurs, parents and children type thing. And so he was like, well, what if we make her his daughter? And Steven Spielberg was like, well, okay, but she's black. And David Koepp's like, well, yeah, I know. But you have like 2 adopted black children. Spielberg's like, that's right, I do. Okay, let's make her his daughter. And so David Koepp went back to the drawing board, and because they'd already cast this girl, like they couldn't just change her race. So they're like, okay, we're going to make her his daughter, but I can't figure out how to justify or how to explain the fact that she's black. So we're just not going to address it.
is it really that hard to come up with yourself?
Like literally,
either his wife at the time is black and they have a mixed race child, or adopted.
yeah.
But
That's
also,
not really. I don't think it's something that needed to be explained in the movie.
Well, I mean,
It never bothered me. I don't know.
It's a little jarring.
Is it? It is. It is. I mean, like if you just explain these things away,
it just kind of takes you out of the movie because you have to come up with an explanation on your own.
Yeah.
If they had addressed it in the movie, it would just be like, all right.
If they had shown a picture of him with his black ex-wife or girlfriend,
Plus, in
there
the
you
first
go. There it
movie,
is explained.
in the first movie, they don't talk about has he been married before?
Oh yeah,
No.
they do. There's a
they?
whole
yeah. They talk
You
about
ever
how
been
he has.
married? Oh
he has
yeah,
kids.
me. Yeah.
He even says that he has a couple kids.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm
catch
always
that.
on the lookout for the next ex Mrs. Malcolm.
Yeah.
Like
Okay,
that's his
okay, I do
character.
remember that, yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, but I just find it funny that David Koepp couldn't figure out how to just work in a line of dialogue that says, "Oh, she's adopted."
I don't think it's
You know,
important.
it's not important, but like these guys said, like these are little things that kind of take you out of the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's bigger fish to fry in this movie, though.
Well,
Oh,
for
definitely.
sure.
Let's talk about San Diego.
Yeah, how did all those guys on the boat die?
So I have no defense for this in the context of the movie, but in like the storyboards and in the behind the scenes nonsense, they have some explanation for what happens, and it's somehow.
If there was raptors on the boat, I would have been totally into it. But there was a giant T-Rex.
There was in the
That's
first
it.
book. The first
That's
book,
it.
there was a bunch of raptors on a boat. That happened. But this one, I know there's a storyboard that explains it.
They literally
I saw the video.
a decapitated hand of the captain on the stern.
Yeah, holding the button down.
in a room that there's no way a T-Rex could have gotten into.
Yeah.
The T-Rex was still in the cargo hold.
Yeah. Well,
It makes zero sense.
No, it makes no sense. I know there's a storyboard that it kind of explains it.
Who was driving that boat back?
Nobody. The
the
computer,
end?
the GPS.
Oh, that was big technology.
Oh,
in
was that an
2001.
option
A
for the way
GPS?
there? Because I feel like
98,
they should have gone with that option
Okay,
for the way
98,
to
whatever.
San Diego.
What are you talking about?
I said who was driving the boat back out at the end of the movie? They like
Oh, at
trapped-
the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they got a new crew to go on there and figure all this stuff out.
Oh, fuck them, right?
I'm sure they'll be fine. Well, what are they going to do? Of course, they're going to put more people on the boat to get it out of the San Diego Bay and sail it back to Isla Nublar.
Should've
The issue is
sunk it.
how it got there with everybody dead.
Right.
They set their course. They say,
Yeah.
okay, this is where we're going to go. You don't have to. It's not like driving a car. It's a boat. It just goes.
Have you ever driven a boat before?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
That's
a
how
big ass
boats work?
boat like that.
Here, look. I guarantee you. You point a boat in a direction. Oh, I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit that dock. That's 50 miles away, and you push the engine up the flank, and you just point it in that direction. It's not going to hit anywhere near that dock.
Are you guys really going to nitpick that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's
What, a
absolutely
GPS system
ridiculous.
can't make small corrections to keep a boat on course.
You need someone to make those corrections, though.
I don't think you
It's
do.
not a
You have a captain there to
cyborg.
make sure everything's happening.
It doesn't matter. I just want to know how everybody died. That's all.
They got eaten.
But this is another
But there was no dinosaurs out there.
this is another great
Did he
example.
trap himself in the cargo hold after he ate everyone?
It's possible that could have happened. Yeah. He was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to bed, and he crawled back in.
Night night.
Night.
This is another example of a set piece that the director wanted to do and doesn't make any sense within the context of the story, but the story has to set it up to justify it. And it was just, I mean, basically Spielberg, he was keeping with his monster movie motif, and he wanted a Godzilla moment.
I really hate that he did that.
Yeah.
I really hate that Steven Spielberg actually made this movie.
It kind of ruins things for you a little bit, doesn't
it takes some of his luster off.
Yeah.
'Cause
Nobody's
it's not
perfect. If this was a modern movie, Katie should be like, Steven Spielberg doesn't give a shit about his craft. He's a hack writer.
He's thinking about it right now. He's like,
Does it hurt you to say that?
Well,
because if this was J.J. Abrams, you would give him no slack.
Spielberg's not a writer, first of all. He's a director. He doesn't write his own stuff.
Okay.
He doesn't.
All right.
But I've never been shy about criticizing Spielberg when he deserves it.
Just give me shit, man. I don't care.
No, pretty much you can divide Steven Spielberg's career up in before Schindler's List and after Schindler's List. After he won the Oscar for Schindler's List, his movies have gone downhill and have been real crap. Like there's a handful of exceptions to that, but for the most part, like everything before Schindler's List was amazing with like a few exceptions, and then everything after Schindler's List has been crappy with a few exceptions.
Did Saving Private Ryan come out before or after?
I believe
after.
I believe it came out after.
Because Schindler's List came out the same year as Jurassic Park.
That's one of no, it didn't.
It was being filmed at the same time. Maybe it didn't come out at the same time, but it was being filmed at the same time.
I think it came out after Jurassic Park
because he
was
some
point. But
never mind.
The point I mean, like you can say, Catch Me If You Can. It came out after Schindler's List, and that's a good Spielberg movie. But by and large, the majority of his filmography after Schindler's List has been like really bad, and it's like the exact opposite of what it was before Schindler's List, which is for the most part, like his movies are before that were classics, arguably.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions. So, I mean, like, I don't give Spielberg a pass just because he's Spielberg. Like, this movie, The Lost World, is not a good movie on so many different levels. Like, the acting's bad. The only good thing about this movie is the special effects. Like, the story for this movie is bad. The writing's bad.
The scene with the trailers and the two T-Rexes with the animatronics and the seat, like that was fantastic. I love watching. I could watch it a million times. It's
a good set piece.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I thought it was just a big money grab. I really did. I thought they were just trying to take advantage.
No, the money grab was number 3.
Well, that was. Yeah.
You guys want to talk about number 3, or do you want to finish up with?
Well, I really like the scene in San Diego where he ate the dog.
That
was pretty cool.
There's a scene that they cut
because you're a cat person.
So remember
I'm
when
a dog person too.
When the kid took the picture of the T-Rex and it like roared at them and their parents were yelling, like they cut this whole scene out, but the T-Rex
and that was the other thing that irritated me too, was like the writing for the dialogue between actors. Like these parents are just like bickering between themselves about
not
their
the fish tank.
Yeah. Like can you just walk down the hallway into your kid's room
now,
for Christ's sake?
If my kid had come into my bedroom and said, "Mom, there's a dinosaur outside," I would have told him, "Get the fuck out of here."
At 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to sleep.
No.
Like,
the T-Rex actually broke into the house and like ate the parents or something.
That's the scene I would have liked.
Good, because they're annoying.
I don't know.
The biggest issue with this movie is the fact that the writer had nothing to do with the creation of it. It was all a hack screenwriter and Spielberg.
Yeah.
And it was not a good team up.
Shots fired.
That's okay.
And I also like all the crosstalk was annoying. The characters were all annoying. I didn't care for any of the characters.
Yes.
It was just it was a bad movie.
I'm actually shocked to hear you say that like Spielberg fell in love with this actress and wanted to put her in something because he loved her work before, because I felt like her acting was terrible.
Oh, she was one of the most annoying characters.
She was so over the top. Dad!
Yeah, remember when she saved the day by doing gymnastics?
We don't talk about that.
Like she does those bar twirls and then kicks the velociraptor out the window.
At least it was set up.
It was set up. It was
properly set up.
Oh, yeah.
Properly paid off.
But I remember
good writing.
You know what else they've done that?
It was
in
just
a
called
movie
writing.
It's called Gymkata, where they had the pommel horse in the middle of the ring, and Bart Connor did his little kicky things off the pommel horse.
But I remember seeing that scene in the theater, and people groaned when she was like doing those like bar flips and stuff.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, they needed a moment at the end of the movie to make her entire character throughout the entire movie
She needed
matter.
an arc.
Yeah.
There's the arc.
Yeah, my biggest problem with all the Jurassic movies is like the forced inclusion of children into these films. Where
Excuse
they
me,
don't
Mr.
need
Goonies.
They don't need to be there. The Goonies is about children.
They're in the books, and the kids in the books are awesome. Really, really
you could
well
have
written.
easily left out the daughter in,
For the
in
entire
Lost
thing.
World and
Also-
not missed anything.
There's a bit of a I don't know. It's not nostalgia. There's another word. I'm terrible with words today. It's a tradition. There we go. It's a tradition in the Jurassic Park franchise, especially in the books, translated over to the movies, that there's always a bit of having some kids in there to
Family factor.
to give them the family factor plus the awe factor of like seeing, as you're a kid and you're looking at dinosaurs, you freaking love dinosaurs. Most kids growing up love dinosaurs.
Yeah, but it's this mentality that if you have a kid in your movie, the kids in the audience are going to identify with them, and so it's a way for children to, kind of come into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole point is, like, I could understand why the kids were included in the first movie. There was no reason to include children in this movie.
At least in the third movie, he's not there until the third act, to the third end.
Well,
end of
the
that-
third
end of the
movie, his character makes sense because that's the entire reason why they're there.
It's a rescue mission.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, as far as like the movie's concerned on a meta point of view, like it's a tradition to have children in these movies to give it a certain perspective. And that's why they're there. And whether or not they're well written or not can be argued all day long. But the inclusion of them, I don't think should be excluded at all. I think they belong in the Jurassic Park franchise. And I think they should just
completely
be
disagree.
I think they should be written better. That's all.
I think initially the reason the children are there is just because it's a staple of Spielberg. Like he likes to include children in his movies, and
I think we lost Vader.
by the time we get to the last Jurassic World movie, it's like really
That's next week.
Yeah.
It's next week.
I was just looking at Spielberg's IMDb.
Oh, okay.
What is
He's
before and
watching
after?
TikTok.
Yeah.
You TikToking?
TikTok. No.
Before we got
but definitely not my favorite of these three.
It's
Jurassic
my
movies.
least
No
favorite
one's
also.
favorite. If this is anyone's favorite movie, I don't know what to say.
Go read the book. The book is leaps and bounds better. It has a couple.
You can say that about every.
I have a couple inconsistencies in there, but I mean,
I want a shirt that says the book was better.
the book was better. Okay, I'll make one for
You're,
you.
you're going to regret ever asking us to watch these movies, man. I have a
Why?
feeling-
It doesn't take anything away from me. I love it. I still watch it. I still enjoy it. I find the parts that I like, and I just ignore the stuff that I don't. And that's another Oh, go ahead.
I actually really have kind of enjoyed watching these movies this week because I am not a part of that core fandom of it. They're not bad movies. They're just not good. They're
popcorn entertainment
Yeah,
films.
that's it. They're popcorn
And that-
movies,
and
and
I-
I'm fine with that.
Now is as good a time as any to talk about it, but the difference in the fandom, and as far as I'm concerned, I can't speak for everybody, but as far as I'm concerned, like somebody could say, "Oh, that freaking movie is a piece of shit." Like, okay, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you, but I still enjoy it, and I feel like that's a thing that is around my fandom and the Jurassic Park fandoms. Everybody kind of feels the same way. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but we still love it, and we love it for what it is.
It's like
We
the
love
prequels.
it. We love it for the dinosaurs. We love it for this. We love it for Spielberg. We love it, because the books are there and it kind of, Michael Crichton, blah, blah, blah. Any reason that you want to pick to love these books or because I grew up with them. But I don't really see anybody in the Jurassic Park fandom that says stuff like the Star Wars fandom does. We're like, this movie's a freaking masterpiece, and if you don't like it, you don't understand cinema. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we don't say that. I don't know anybody in the Jurassic Park fandom that tries to say that because it's just not true.
I think
We're
I think it's cute that you have a Jurassic Park fandom.
I was just going to ask,
do.
is the level of the fandom?
hey, Jurassic World made the most money that year. It was billions of
Oh, I'm
dollars.
sure it did.
So is the level of the fandom with Jurassic Park equal to the level of the fandom with Star Wars?
Oh God,
I don't know, like
No.
a scale? No.
Yeah, like are the fans as crazy?
No.
That's what I thought.
No. And we're not even, I can't say that we're even as big. I think the general audience like Jurassic Park,
I
but
think
as
it's
far as like
probably-
a fandom goes,
You ever seen a Jurassic Park con?
Well, I think it's
Doesn't
probably
exist,
that's
right?
a good point.
I think it's probably the difference between someone who wishes for a time when there was dinosaurs and has like a nostalgia for that versus someone who wishes they were a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see people cosplaying dinosaurs.
No,
No, but we
I
do
mean
have,
they do, but it's like a sexy.
we do have a whole theme
It's
park.
like a weird, sexy
It's
thing.
like,
No
like,
judgment.
like an odd furry.
You have a
I
ride,
won't yuck
right?
your yum.
fetish.
It's a whole area. It's kind of
Is
like Star Wars land. It's all Jurassic Park. They got the Spinosaurus. I don't know. I
And
haven't been there in a
it came
while.
first.
There is a
Yeah.
at Universal Studios. There is a Jurassic Park area.
Yeah. So I mean, it's big enough to justify. The fandom is a sizable fandom. I feel like, but I just don't see the same mentality from the Jurassic Park fandom that I do from other fandoms.
I don't ever see myself going to war with with the Jurassic Park people.
I feel like
I just won't.
There's a certain level of crazy with the different fandoms.
And there's always that 10% of people who are just like
Star Wars and Star Trek fans. That's a whole
I
another
don't think
world.
that dinosaur fans are there's like out of control.
There's a funny meme, right? So there's a meme. It's like an old Greek mythology painting of like all the people fighting with knives. It's like the assassination of Caesar or something like that. And then underneath it says Star Wars fandom. And then underneath it just says Jurassic Park fandom, and it's everybody standing around a table going, "Fuck yeah, dinosaurs!"
I think that's accurate.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Like we don't. I don't like that movie. Okay, cool. Well, the dinosaurs were cool though.
Yeah.
So it's like that's all it is, and that's what I love about it because it's just fun. That's all. It doesn't have to be anything else. It doesn't have to be like a masterpiece class of cinema or writing. It's just,
it can't be because it's not.
I just had like a brain light bulb go on.
What's up?
Like I feel like the Jurassic Park fans, the dinosaur fans, are equal to like the shark fans.
Sure.
Like people who are nuts about shark.
I bet you there's a lot of
crazy
crossover
for Shark
there.
Week. Yeah. And I think the Star Wars fans are equal to people who are like really into vampires. Like, oh, if you were a vampire, what would your power be? Like those people are just like, if you were a Jedi, what color would your lightsaber be? Those are the same people. I think so.
That's hilarious. All right. That's a good. I'm going to end on that segment right there. Podcast over. No, real quick before we talk about the third movie, just we'll spend a couple of minutes on this one because there's a couple of good things about it that I really enjoy, even though it's a terrible movie.
You can't enjoy it. What are you talking about?
If you guys want to support this podcast, you can go to saltynerdvideo.com. We have all of our YouTube content there. We take our weekly podcast, the 2-3 hour long mega episodes. We split them up in digestible little segments, and we put them out there on YouTube for your enjoyment. Please go to saltynerdvideo.com, hit subscribe, like the videos, comment on the videos, let us know your thoughts. It helps support us. It helps keeps us motivated to go out there and have our voice out in the interwebs. So go to saltynerdvideo.com.
I'll work that algorithm.
Yeah.
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 Smash
work the
that like
algorithm.
button.
Smash that like button. Smash
There's
that.
so many
yeah.
people who are mad at me for the Last Jedi title that I put up. I said like, what was it, inspired or lazy ? And they were like, inspired or lazy? It was trash. It was neither of those things.
They're right.
They were right. I'm like, all right, well, it worked though. Got you to click on the video, didn't it? What's you did?
Dinosaurs. I don't know what.
You want to wait for her to get back, or do you want to just go into it?
We can go into it.
Okay.
How dare you speak for her, sir?
All right. Jurassic Park 3. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like for a long time it was like the black sheep of the franchise that nobody really talked about it much.
It still is.
Maybe.
It's better than 2.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it is. It is better than 2, but man, it just ends so abruptly.
Yeah.
Like the ending just kills the whole thing for me.
You know what's funny is like while we were watching it, I literally turned to Judah. I was like, "Is it just me, or is this like way better than the second one?"
It is better. It's better because it's simpler.
It's better for a lot of different reasons. But I'd never seen it before. Like I never saw it in the theaters. I'd never watched it on video. So this was the first time I was watching the third movie, and I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, like it's not as good as the first one, but it's way better than the second one.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I really enjoyed about it, and there's always these funny things. It's in the beginning of the movie, so we'll just talk about it. But Alan Grant, we get Sam Neill back as Alan Grant after a hiatus. He wasn't in the second movie at all, which was really cool. I love Sam Neill. He's one of my favorite actors, and it's got to be because
actor.
He's a good actor. I love him in Hunt for October. He's so freaking cool.
I love that movie.
You know
love
what?
that movie, too.
I don't mean to interrupt. I thought he was boring.
What?
I didn't. I just
With the movie or him?
His character in the first movie and in the third movie, I felt like he just
Didn't want to be there?
was a boring character.
Well, he didn't have a character arc in this movie.
Yeah.
So like there was no transformation for him to go through. He was just kind of there. But I felt like he was better suited for it than someone like Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, for sure. I like, because a lot of the criticism comes from like there's a big difference. Like in the first movie, Sam Neill's character Alan Grant is very much like they're animals, they're not monsters. You know, It's kind of the whole theme of the movie. And then this one, he's like, what John Hammond had created on that island was theme park monsters. And everybody's like, how do you have this?
He was very cynical about it.
Yeah, I was very cynical about it. But I think if you kind of make the connection, which I'm not saying the movies did this on purpose, but you can do it as like a fan if you want to. But like in the second movie, Ian talks about how they had that non-disclosure form and how InGen kind of threw everybody under the bus and discredited everybody, and it was like a horrible legal debacle that happened because of that island. And I think that is what changed Alan Grant's perception from...
A lot of headcanon here that you're throwing around.
Hey, man, if it works.
I mean that's the mentality of the Last Jedi defenders right there.
No,
if it works. Yeah, no. That's exactly how they justify it. Yeah.
No, because if you tell me, well, it's not a good setup, I'm like, okay, whatever. That's how I think of it.
He is a Jurassic Park shill. So.
I am completely biased. I will admit that to anybody, and I will never tell anybody that these movies are masterpieces.
So here's what I want to ask you, Alex.
What's up?
All right, so the basis of this movie is at the very beginning, we see this guy and this little kid parasailing, and they get separated from their boat, and they get stranded on the dinosaur island, Isla Nublar. Is that
no? Isla Sorna is Site B.
Isla Sorna.
Nublar is the main island that the first movie took place on.
Okay, so they get stranded on Isla Sorna, and then the main thrust of the movie is this kid's parents lie to Dr. Grant to get him to go with them to the island so they can help find their kid. Mm-hmm. So when I was watching this, there's this scene where, first of all, I don't know why this guy chartered a boat to like the Forbidden Island to take this kid parasailing when they could have just parasailed anywhere safe.
So they wanted to see dinosaurs.
Okay, fine. So they're parasailing close to this island, and the boat goes into this like fog area. Yeah. And then when it comes out of the fog, all the guys riding on the boat are dead.
It's because there's fog monsters, dude.
Well, I'm wondering like what dinosaurs were able to kill those guys in that fog, because they're like out in the ocean at this point, and we were never shown any dinosaurs that were in the ocean. And if there were dinosaurs in the ocean, they would have attacked the boat, not the people in the boat, right?
I think the ocean monsters were in the trailer, though. So maybe it was a...
What?
I think there was, there was
in
like...
the movie trailer?
Yeah, there was something in the movie trailer that was like a fin came up, and I was totally expecting to see like an ocean dinosaur.
Well, the fin was from the Spinosaurus in the last scene.
I think it ended on the cutting room floor.
So there's a couple of things, and you can say it's headcanon or whatever. The theory is that it's the Spinosaurus, because it's described in the movie that the closer you get to the shore, the bigger things get. Spinosaurus kind of hung out by the shore. It's a aquatic dinosaur.
I agree with you.
So it's very likely,
based on what I saw.
Yeah, it's very likely that thing could have been out there, and it heard the boat coming, and it like got up on a little rocky ledge in the water, kind of hidden, and then just kind of chomped on the guys as they went past. But again, it's not really well set up, and I can't really defend it that much, but that's the theory.
One thing I did like, was it called the Spinosaurus?
Yes, Spinosaurus aegyptigus, which as of right now, the paleontologists and the actual scientists have debunked. It does not look like it does in the movie, which makes me very sad.
One of the things I thought was kind of funny in this movie is at a certain point, the Spinosaurus eats a guy who has the sat phone on him.
Yeah.
And so the way that you can tell that the Spinosaurus
is still calling.
Yeah. Well, when they answer it, it's a robocall. Yeah. It's like a telemarketing call. Because I guess people give out their sat phone numbers for telemarketers. But the Spinosaurus, so like it eats the sat phone. And so the way you know the Spinosaurus is near throughout the movie, it's a real Captain Hook and alligator thing, because the phone starts ringing, and it's
inside the dinosaur,
and it's like, oh my god!
And then he takes a shit, and it's inside. The shit's still ringing.
Set up and payoff.
and poor Bill Macy, he pulls out this shit covered phone, and he's like, puts it up to his head, hello.
That was Alan Grant that did that.
No, it was William H. Macy.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Alan Grant.
Well, he was digging through the shit too.
Yeah, they all were.
But when they found the phone, William
H.
Macy had the shit covered sat phone. And
can we talk about Billy for a minute? Billy is the worst paleontologist ever.
Oh yeah, like when Jude and I saw it, we were like, he totally stole an egg.
Yeah.
yeah, he did. Two.
I thought it would fund the dig site. Like, what?
Honestly, if you're walking around, I don't care where you are, you're walking around looking side-eyed like that, I know you took something.
Yeah.
I don't care if we're at the grocery store or if you're in the living room, you are walking around looking like that, hiding your side. What'd you take, man?
I was taking pictures of the nest.
Yeah.
Just give me the bag.
Just give me the bag, Alan.
Just give me the bag, man.
It's not safe.
How much more
did you do?
Yeah,
You want me to carry it?
the
No.
way he was trying to get the bag back from Alan was just like very not sophisticated at all.
No, not stealthy.
Not sly. Not at all. But he redeemed himself, though.
It's like when you're a little kid and you slip something in the grocery cart.
Yeah.
It's like, Mom, I'll carry that bag. I'll carry that bag out to the car.
Totally, yes.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, Billy. Well, what I was talking about Billy and the paleontology thing is when they get attacked by the Spinosaurus and it's coming after him and it wrecks the plane and all that nonsense. All that big scene happens. Alan kind of asks Billy, like, what kind of dinosaur do you think it was? And he's like, oh, Suchomimus, because it's got the snout. Oh, Baryonyx, because it's got this. And it's like, not with that sail. Like, as a dinosaur nerd, I'm like, there's only so many dinosaurs that fit this description, Billy. You're a paleontologist. You should know this by now.
It's a bird cage.
Well,
That was a good moment. That was the best part of the movie.
That was.
all the characters in this movie are like terrible.
What?
All the characters are terrible
Well,
at
what
what
would
they
you
do.
Oh, yeah.
So, like for instance, the
Except
three,
for the kid. The kid was
oh,
badass.
the kid was badass.
Don't ask him that. But he'll go for
the,
hours.
The three mercenaries. Can we just talk about how terrible mercenaries are?
Yeah, they weren't even mercenaries. They were like
weren't.
carpet salesmen
Exactly.
or something.
Yes. That's the whole point. Is like, yeah, they're terrible mercenaries. Yes, because they were basically just like preppers that like wanted to,
It was a guy that could fly a plane and his two pals that like to shoot guns.
yeah, exactly.
I've
And
worked
they're-
with them
like,
before,
we're
and they're-
mercenaries. We're top men.
Top ramen.
That's
Bunch
the
of
whole
noodles.
point. Like that's the whole shtick of the whole thing.
And then William H. Macy, he's not really like a multimillionaire.
No,
he's
Paint and
like,
Tile Plus.
Yeah, I run a paint and tile store.
I do like the
Writing
scene where he
fake
was
checks.
like, when you were climbing, what was it, Mount Everest or Mount Kilimanjaro or something?
Something.
Mount
Okay,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
K2.
He was like, where did you, he's like, oh, I, 10,000 miles above the peak. That's where I rested
He's
before I
like, did
finished.
you camp at 30,000 feet? And he's like, oh yeah, 30,000.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
about 10,000 feet above it. Yeah. It's funny. Like we laugh at it because it's kind of goofy and the way it comes off in the film is a little just odd, but like it makes sense. Everything's there.
to me, like the movie, whenever it was Alan Grant and the kid, it was good. All the other characters were annoying as hell.
Yeah.
Like I thought William
What's
H.
the-
Macy's
what's the
character was
actress's name?
okay. Tia Leone.
Leone.
She was the most annoying character.
Yeah,
as well.
but
Ugh, with
but
that
also
mega horn thing.
yeah, but also the fact that she like the whole premise of this is like she let her boyfriend take her kid to
Worst
Dinosaur Island.
parents
I thought
ever.
they were married at that point.
No,
No,
they
they
just
were
got
boyfriend.
divorced. And she let this dude take her kid on a boat to Dinosaur Island to parasail. And the guy was a jerk too. He's like, just let me have it. Take your hands off.
he was
Shut
he was
up.
panicking. There was nothing to notify.
Listen, if you are a person prone to panic, you do not belong parasailing on Dinosaur Island.
This is true.
By the way, the budget for this was $93 million.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, way more CGI.
Golf clap. Golf clap.
yeah, a lot more CGI. There's one thing I wanted to point out though. That I don't know what it is. To me, this movie doesn't hold up as well as the other two. I think it's because it's in broad daylight almost the entire time, and the Spinosaurus.
You do not think Lost World is better than this.
not like I'm talking about like from a technical and special effects standpoint.
Carry on.
The animatronic, the Spinosaurus. Like the animatronic Spinosaurus didn't look nearly as real as the animatronic T-Rex.
Well, there was that whole nighttime scene in the water.
That was the best part. That's when it sold me, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why they cut in a kid watching Barney during that scene.
It was to add
I understand
tension.
what it was
Yeah.
for, but it was the worst edit. You take the scary. It's like taking the T-Rex scene from the first movie and editing in like another scene from another area where nothing's happening.
Well, I don't think that this one was scary at all. I think it was more of like an action movie or an adventure movie.
It went back to the first movie's kind of like vibe. I think.
Really?
I feel like.
I never
No, I think the
felt like
first
it
one was
scary at all.
scarier. for like from a kid perspective or from a first time view perspective.
The first one was definitely a lot more tense.
Yes. Yeah.
It should be pointed out that the guy who directed this, Joe Johnson, he was the guy who directed the original Jumanji with Robin Williams, and he also did Captain America: The First Avenger.
I do too.
So he's not the best director in the world.
Jumanji was great. I was just saying, like, I just felt like the Spinosaurus in that opening scene where it takes on the airplane. I don't know. There was something about the animatronic, whether it was the lighting or if it was the set design or something. It didn't sell me. I was just like, that looks fake as hell. And then it got redeemed later on. The boat scene with the water, I thought that looked fantastic. And the CGI was pretty on point for most of the movie. It's just that opening scene when you really get introduced to this brand new, like, big scary dinosaur.
I will say, I think this movie is very well paced.
Yeah,
I think the pacing
except
for this
the ending.
movie is good.
The ending kind of
Well, it is a very abrupt ending.
Very abrupt. Which, this movie went through extensive reshoots.
You don't say.
Extensive, like it was a completely different movie. And then like last minute, they just were like, let's just do this, and they came up with what we have. But I always thought, like, even when I first watched the movie in the theaters, I was like, that's how it's going to end, just like that. Like that was oddly.
With the troops showing up on the shore?
It was a dude in a suit with a megaphone.
Yeah.
Alan Grant, like, what?
It's like they knew exactly where to pull those boats up.
And Ellie Sadler, like she got those guys out there really quick, didn't
really
she?
quick.
Like, I don't know what type of connection she had.
Well, it was explained earlier in the movie where Ellie's new husband works for the State Department, and he's involved in like international treaties, so he has some some clout.
Pull.
You know what upset me the most about this
Set
movie?
up and payoff. Go ahead.
I was upset that they did the T-Rex so bad.
Really?
Yeah,
They did the T-Rex dirty.
they did him dirty.
Okay, because that's
T-Rex deserved better.
if there's anything that you're going to pick a fight with people in the Jurassic Park fandom, it's whether or not the T-Rex got done dirty. And I think there can be an argument said that it did, but to me, it wasn't Rexy. Rexy is still alive and well, as we know. She's on Isla Nublar. Okay, it was a different dinosaur. I used to think that it was the baby T-Rex from the second movie that had grown up, and because it was injured and weak and it didn't grow up, healthy as the other ones, that's why it was weaker than the Spinosaurus, and that's why it died. That was my headcanon theory. It has nothing to do with the movie.
In my head, there's nothing more meaner and ferocious than the T-Rex. So nothing's going to beat it in the fight.
This
ever.
one was 97, right?
No. Lost World was 97. This one I think was 2001.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was a little annoyed that they had to show that the Spinosaurus was such a badass by killing a T-Rex. It kind of annoyed me a little bit.
Just a little
I don't
bit
even know why. It's just like they didn't even have to put that in the movie.
You're not alone. You're not alone at all. A lot of people feel the same way. It never bothered me. I always felt like, okay, they have to establish that this new dinosaur is a bigger threat. So there you go. And like I said, it wasn't Rexy. If they would have killed Rexy, 100%.
How do you know which one's Rexy and which one isn't?
Rexy.
Oh, he knows.
Rexy is the one from the original movie, and in the original movie, at the very, very end, when she gets in the fight with the raptors inside the main visitor center, she gets the scratches on the neck, and she has a scar, and you can always tell it's Rexy because she has a scar on her face and her neck. And
I did not know that.
If you watch the Jurassic World movies, boom, it's there. That's how you know.
Did she in the volcano? Did she get whacked in the volcano?
No, she got out. They took her to the mainland. Rexy's out in California somewhere.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Killed the
That's good to know.
whacked him.
Where's the dinosaur that rampaged through San Diego?
That was
It's in the boat.
Still in the boat.
It's just circling around.
It's on a cruise.
Every time it eats the crew, they just put a new crew on it, let it go.
They helicopter a new crew in.
I don't know. That's Isla Sorna, so that's the same island that the Spinosaurus was on. So it's roaming around somewhere on the island.
I mean, not to go back to the second one, but couldn't they have just like gotten a second boat and towed that shit out there? Why are you putting more people in danger, sir?
You put more thought into it than the writers did.
I hate
That's
it when
what we do. That's what we
Push
do
it.
here. We think about things more
Put
than
a
the people
boat
who make
behind it and push it. That way you can just like skedaddle
little
out of there.
Yeah, a little tugboat.
Jude's really upset about that boat, guys.
The second movie really.
Yeah, you guys are
going
gonna hate me right now, but I really wish dinosaurs were real. You know why?
So they would eat people?
No.
Oh.
So we could have a Carol Baskin for dinosaurs.
I do hate you now.
Just gonna feed your husband to a dinosaur.
Because you know there'd be some psychos out there with dinosaur zoos on the side of the road.
Dude.
That bitch.
Colin Chavarro, if you're listening, there's going to be a TV spinoff. And it's going to
Dinosaur King.
Dinosaur King.
King.
It's going to be Dinosaur King.
High five.
Nick Cage. Call Nick Cage right now.
That's it.
No, call Ian Malcolm.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
I mean, he's already got the whole chest hair thing
Oh
going on.
my god. I feel like you made me have the sound of a pterodactyl when you said that.
Let's talk about those. Best part of the freaking movie.
Can we talk about the 3D printed
the flute?
raptor flute?
The raptor flute? Hey, man, set up and pay off. Set up and pay off. No.
Yes.
Call for help.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Don't say that to them.
How rude. They looked shook, too, didn't they? They were like, what did he just call you?
That was good. I did actually like that scene. They're like, the raptors are all like, what the fuck?
You know what, guys? Let's just go.
It's like,
Let's
just
get
give me
out of
the
here.
Let's bounce.
I'm really confused now.
That weird-looking raptor has an attitude. Let's get out of here. Let's just take our eggs and go, you guys.
No, so it's a misunderstanding of this scene as to what happened.
Yes, explain it to us, Alex.
Please.
So Alan uses the little magic raptor flute, and he's making noises out of it, and I can't remember. Was it one of the characters, William H. Macy or something? Like, no, call for help. So he mimics the sound that the first raptor that they encountered
It's
inside
like the whistle that Willy Wonka had when a kid eats it in the factory. and the Oompa Loompas come out and they bring you some dino eggs.
edible. Anyway,
Sorry.
So he says call for help. So he mimics the sound that the raptor made when they were in the compound where it was chasing them through the little cages area and stuff like that.
He'd clearly been practicing.
He heard the little call sound that it made, so he mimicked that. And then what happens if you listen closely, if you have your volume up, you can hear the thumping of a helicopter right after he does that. So the raptors are there, they see him, listen to him, call for help, and then they hear this like doop, 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 doop. And then they're like, oh, let's freaking bounce. He called for help. I'm out of here. That's how that scene went down. I know it's not like delivered the best way.
Have you interviewed the raptors?
No, but that white one is dope. That's so cool. The raptors in this movie are the best in the whole franchise, hands down. To me, like when I look at this, they use so many great practical effects.
Wouldn't you think using the raptor call for help would just attract more raptors?
Yes.
Isn't that how
He's
that
talking
Yes.
their language?
You and I would think that.
But Dinosaur Man over here.
If you had, instead of just called for help, if you had yelled fire, because that's how you get help.
What if there had
What's the
been
being
raptor word for
attacked.
fire?
What if there had been a scene where like what's the thing that killed the T-Rex? called again?
Spinosaurus?
Spinosaurus. When the Spinosaurus shows up and the raptors make a noise that say retreat and they all run away, like that would have made more sense where Alan was like, oh, let me use that one, have them like run away because they're calling for
Or they could have used the T-Rex pee.
or that.
They could have been like, hey, spray some of that T-Rex pee. It'll scare all the little ones away.
The kid never explained how he got that, did he?
It's all
Said you don't want to know.
You don't
He
want
said
to
you don't want to.
It's a good story for another time. Look, it's really not that
That
hard.
kid
dude.
is awesome.
The T-Rex pees, you wait for it to walk away, then you walk over to the giant puddle of piss and you pick up the T-Rex.
Yeah, that's it. That's
not
what
that
I was
hard.
thinking.
I don't understand why people get hung
I
up
had
on
to
that.
sneak up
Like
on
he-
a T-Rex
so-
while
Yeah.
he was sleeping, and
Like
I had
you-
to milk the pee out of him.
That's what people. That's the attitude people have. Like, how is this kid get T-Rex? But it's not that hard.
I had to take a golden shower with a T-Rex. My life is something you don't want to know.
Ew.
You know what was weird is when the guy that he was with when he was parasailing, when they find his body,
Ben Hildebrand.
he looks like he's been there way more than 3 weeks. Like,
It had been
like
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
whatever, 8 weeks. Like he's literally like a skeleton with
He's
like
been eaten,
pieces of flesh on him. Well, he was hanging from a tree. How was he being eaten?
biting hike. That's all I got for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
People decompose out in
Drive
jungles
by.
like that actually really
humid,
fast.
Yeah, humid, like
Yeah.
rainy all the time.
No, like he still would have been more corpsey than
I don't
skeleton.
know.
8 weeks? That's a long time.
I've watched a few documentaries about
Critters.
stuff like that.
Yeah, got
Little
bugs,
critters.
maggots.
Yeah, it's not all
raptors.
dinosaurs.
That's why he didn't have any legs.
Also,
'cause the
Taya
dinosaurs-
Leone wasn't too broken up about losing her boyfriend.
Well, he didn't know. She didn't know him that long.
Seemed like kind of a jerk.
Knew him long enough to let him take her kid.
I know, she's the worst.
She was a terrible mother.
Terrible mother.
Yeah, you can tell by her haircut.
Yeah, she very Karen.
That was
She
about,
was busy speaking to a manager when her boyfriend took her son.
she had the same
Parasailing.
haircut she had when she made that Meteor movie, right?
Oh, Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Impact, and also Family Man, which is the best Nicolas Cage movie ever made.
Raising Arizona
Oh,
would
yeah.
disagree with you.
Anyway, do you guys have any other thoughts about Jurassic Park 3? I really do. It's growing on me. Like, I didn't like it when I was younger, but the more I watch it now, I'm like, it's pretty
What's
good.
your order?
For best to worst?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Of these three.
There's only one answer.
Well, first one's first, obviously. Number one's one.
It's 1, 3, 2.
And 3, 2. I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I put kind of 3 and 2. They kind
No,
of
No.
two's way worse.
dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
I mean,
But if you were a dinosaur vampire, what would your power be?
I mean,
It's not that type of fandom.
it's sad when you can point to a Spielberg movie and be like, yeah, this was really bad.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, I do think the third movie was definitely more enjoyable than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And so I would rate, the first one's first, third one's second. The second one is dead last.
It's like if on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, 2 is like negative.
Negative.
It's in the negative.
Wow. You hated it
2
that much?
is so bad. It's so bad and so annoying.
Like if you turn off your brain and just look at like the big set pieces, yeah, it's fine.
I think you guys hated 2 way more than I did.
Yeah.
In fact, I watched these
You're
all. I watched
stupid
these
and
all.
you
on-
don't understand cinema.
You don't read.
I watched all of these on Vudu. I rented them all on Vudu this week.
Yeah.
When you watch a Vudu movie, you have to give it a star rating at the end, about 5 stars. And I went 4 stars for the first one, 2 stars for the second one, 3 stars for the third one. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I did that on my Letterbox account.
What is Letterbox? You guys are going to have to explain that
I
to
have
me
no
someday.
idea.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our Jurassic Park. Happy Jurassic June, and shout out to all our great collaborators this week. We've got Jurassic Jen and also Tom. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Happy Jurassic June. Next week, we'll be discussing the second half of this movie franchise, the ones that Colin Trevorrow took over. We'll talk about those next week. Looking forward to it. And before we go, I just want to let everybody know you guys can go to saltynerdpodcast.com. It takes you directly to whichever app store that you use for your podcast, either whether it's Apple iTunes or Google Play. And you guys can go there, subscribe, leave us a review. Please help us out, grow the channel. Our ultimate goal of getting as many followers as possible, 50,000 is our long-term goal. If we can get 1,000 followers on YouTube, that'd be fantastic. You can go to our YouTube channel, saltynerdvideo.com, and help support us there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And before we leave, Matthew Kadish, where can they find you on the socials?
On Twitter, they can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish, and also kadishbooks.com will take you to my Amazon page.
And Jude, estrogen ambassador of estrogen herself, where can they find you?
At I am Juju on Instagram and Twitter.
I know. Are you going to read these books now?
I'll probably read them, yeah.
I
got a lot on my plate right now, but it's
okay.
it's going to go on the list.
I
The
have
official list.
I have the double bounded like mega book with both of them in it. You can borrow it.
Nice.
It's like leather bound. It's nice.
Ooh. Do you have many leather-bound books?
A handful.
Does your house smell like rich mahogany?
No, it smells like diapers and
Are you a very big deal?
no, I'm not.
why do you guys gotta make it weird all the time?
I don't know. It's these guys. It's not me.
Jesus.
I just want to talk about movies.
We are quoting
Obviously
a
not a
movie.
fan of Anchorman.
No, I've only seen that like once. Matt
Sweet
Vader,
summer child.
where can they find you? And what are you doing on Twitch these days?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just playing Blizzard games, Hearthstone and World of Warcraft. Slowly growing my little community on there.
And where can they find you to support you?
You can find me at Matt Vader 74 on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram,
Across the board?
YouTube. I'm slowly thinking of ideas for YouTube. It's probably going to be mostly like unboxing collectibles and that kind of thing.
Oh.
But
And Truey _Louie. on Instagram.
Can't forget about the cat.
How do you guys into stupid cat thing?
You
We love
started it.
him.
He's way more interesting.
Yeah,
than you
truly. Yeah, he's got way more followers.
I
than
love Louis.
Truly_Louis if you want to see my dumb cat. So
He's very cute.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Happy Jurassic June. And don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to have a great month. Also, there's a big surprise at the end of the month. We're going to have an awesome podcast all about one of our best and favorite 80s actors. So subscribe and tune in because it's going to be a great month.
Hit that like button.
Boom.